Well, hello there. I am Sonali Ray. I am a civilian sailor with MSC. Some of you know that already. If you're new to this channel, I'd like to welcome you. Welcome aboard. I am coming to you again tonight with another video. Hopefully, by now you are able to enjoy some of my ship stories and my cooking stuff. The whole focus on that segment is just to showcase how the foods that we do eat and the things that we come in contact with. Because let me just be honest with you. Prior to joining MSC, I had no idea what a lot of the foods that I now consume were. For example, chicken tocino, love it. I didn't eat garlic fried rice, like it. And a couple other things I just didn't have access to, or it just wasn't culturally something that was a part of my community. So that's pretty dope. Anyway, today's video is going to focus on mental health just a little bit because one, I don't have a whole lot of time to give you today, and two, I don't want to take up a lot of time on this subject, but I do think it's something that we should take attention to. I've spoke about it before, and just based off some of the interactions I've had with some of you guys, I feel like it's really important. So I'll get back into it. November 2022, on a deployment in a country called Slovenia. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that or not. Anyway, I was leaving a bar with some shipmates. I was actually walking ahead of them because I had to go to the ladies' room. And there was this black car that sped up beside me. And it was blacked out windows. It was a sedan. And this white guy jumps out, well, native there, and was yelling and like gesturing for me to get in his car. Here's where it's crazy. Where I was versus where I needed to be was like right there. It was so fast. It was so close. So basically the ship from the bar was really close proximity to each other. So there was no need for some stranger to come up and try to force me in his car. So in that moment, I was just like, all right, if he comes towards you, what do you have on you? I had something on, like scissors, something on me. And I was like, you fight like hell. You don't let yourself go with this strange person that you don't know in a country that you are not native to. So all of that goes to your head really fast. You don't really have time to react, you have to react. You do have time to react. You got to react, but you don't have time to reflect on a whole lot of things because you got to be about action. Thankfully, there was a guy who was walking behind me who was from the ship, and I didn't at that point know him really well, but he was cool people. And he's a guy, and all he simply did was ask a question. And the question was, what did he say? And the guy that's native to that land saw said guy because he didn't see him at first. He only saw me. He zeroed in on me and not who was around me. And that question was enough, or that exchange was enough for him to jump in his vehicle and speed off. All right, why do I mention that? I mention that because it's important to know and be aware of your surroundings and be prepared. I, of course, told my chain of command. I was like, yo, somebody tried to take me yesterday. He tried to force me in his car. I told him everything that happened. And their point of action, we never reported it to the captain. And at this point, I'm not really sure why we didn't do that. Maybe because we left the next day and it was nighttime, so it was no more danger. But it should have been something that was put out that we were all aware of because this can happen. So all they did was ask me to give them my phone number, which they later abused because I gave them my number and I said specifically, do not give out my phone number. I take my personal safety very seriously, and I kind of, in spite of me making these videos, I try to keep my anonymity. You just want to be, you want to be you and you want to be free and safe. So giving them my phone number was a horrible idea. Horrible idea. Because it came up several times over, and all of this stuff and all this shit is just taxing on the spirit. I did not realize how affected I was by someone trying to force me in their vehicle, if you will, until I got home a week ago. I'm an advocate for therapy, so if you're on here and you have any hang-ups or hurdles about therapy, go to therapy. Just go to therapy. It really helps. Also, in case you didn't know this, and in case I hadn't mentioned it, MSC does have an EAP system. Now, I didn't contact them, but I do believe in going to therapy or just having a landscape where you can just talk to someone about something, about anything, or about nothing at all. Sometimes you just need to get shit out. So I am an advocate for therapy. Anyway, I was in therapy and was talking to my therapist. And I'm not sure how we came up on that topic. I think because talking about work activates my nervous system, amongst other things. Sometimes, even though I tell you guys this, this is really a labor of love, because I've been doing it so long and there's so much I didn't know that I didn't know, and I didn't know how to address. I would never want anyone to have to hit the brick walls that I've had to hit. So I was talking to her, and before I knew it, I was just kind of shaking a little bit. And then here comes the tears, and I realized I never processed that situation. Not once. I said what happened to people, and I didn't allow myself to feel what happened or to even be fearful of it. And it showed me something that a lot of people always take for granted or always use as a crutch, because everybody's like, oh, you're a black girl, you can take all this stuff. That's not fair and it's not true. And it showcased in that moment, because I really wasn't allowed to be vulnerable. Because when I told them what happened, it was like, oh, okay, that's terrible. Give me your phone number so in case something like that happened again, you can call somebody. But get back to work was the narrative. Nobody was like, are you okay? How are you feeling about that? None of that happens. This isn't that type of environment. So you put on this hard exterior, like, demeanor. You have this huge defense mechanism, and you put this big brick wall up, and you're just like, I just got to get the you become engulfed with the mission. I got to do the mission. All right, I can worry about this later. And later never comes. And it wasn't until I started to learn to process things, because I'm not the best at emotions and emotional stuff. I learned to process things, and I realized that really affected me. And for the first time in months, remember I said this in early November, I felt vulnerable and I was nervous. And it's like the fear that I put behind me was finally showing itself. And I was like, oh, crap. What would have happened? And I've been holding on to this. And the thing about holding on to things is that this is a new day and you're holding old stuff. It's hard to be fully functional or completely focused on what you need to focus on. I'm not saying you don't do a good job. I'm not saying that you're not able to continue that way. Over time, the more things you gather and put in the back, it does not service you well. It does not help you at all. I'm dealing with it. Trust me, I'm dealing with it now. I am going through so much. And then it goes from mental to physical, like you're in a whole lot of pain. Stress causes cancer, People end up with cancer and all other ailments because of stress. Things that they can't get rid of, things that they're terrified to talk about, things that they can't even think about anymore because it's too much for them. Coming here to this company without strong, just how do I say it? Like, without a strong plan or a strong foundation can be detrimental to a degree. Because sometimes in life you'll miss something. It'll affect what you hear. It'll affect how you hear. It can affect how you speak. It'll affect how you receive direction, if you can at all. We are a combination of our life experiences. And it's unfortunately, if you have a bunch of bad experiences, that's what you have to pull from. And it makes you, outside of this environment, almost unemployable. I can't work anywhere else. I take that back. I can work other places, but I can't do certain things because of trauma, which would put a damper on my ability to work in other environments. I'll put it that way. I speak quite clearly. Sometimes I talk fast, and I have a really good grasp on the English language. And communication is not my hurdle. What's my hurdle is people and being around people. And it really freaks me out. Even if I see some of you guys are so amazing in the comments, so understanding, so available to want to help and stuff. Being around people activates my nervous system. And sometimes I'm overwhelmed. And I had to get to a place where I would tell people, if you see me bust out crying, I'm okay. Just don't touch me. Because I would have random panic attacks on the ship or anxiety attacks on the ship and just break down. Like, it's not what it's cracked up to be. And a lot of people, and I didn't have that shit before I got here. Before I got to MSC, life was cool. I had fun. I would hang and all that stuff. It affects you, to include my ability to be consistent with these videos. I always tell you guys, hold me accountable, this and that. And the truth is, I have depressed days where I don't even get up for like a few days. I barely feed myself sometimes, and I'm damn sure not coming on a video looking crazy because I just don't want anybody to have any more ammunition to try to talk crazy to me, or it's all geared towards trauma. And I stand here with that truth, fully understanding that it's really not as big of a deal as I'm making it out to be, probably, but I can't see the forest through the trees. It's like I have challenges with mental health, to include PTSD and a lot of other shit, only because of the shit that I've seen here. If you've never been in a war zone and you've never seen a dead body, and I'm not saying you're going to see them, but I have. If you haven't been in situations where brace for impact, like shit like that, if that's not your jam, coming over here is going to be culture shock. Because everybody thinks, oh, you're making so much money. Do you know what we go through for this shit? Do you know what we've had to see and endure because of this? The stories that myself and my shipmates, old and new, talk about is bananas. If you think racism exists in America, just, regularly, bring your ass out to this water. That'll show you something that you ain't seen before. Seriously. There are times where I'm elated to be out there because of the things you can see, but there are other times where it's just like, how the freak did I get in this? And those are the moments where you need an outlet the most. That's when you need someone to help you. That's when you need someone to advocate for you, or you have to learn to advocate for yourself, to a degree where you're like, I'm not okay, right? People have jumped off the fucking ship for one reason or another. This one guy decided he wanted to go home so bad that he got an emergency suit. If you don't know what that is, you will. And got 2 bottles of water, and he thought that was going to be enough to journey to the Philippines from the ship. He didn't even know where he was. But he was so outside his mind that he thought that was how he was going to get to go home. Do you understand? Like, you see what I'm trying to tell you? There was a captain out here who was a tyrant. I'm not going to say his name, but his initials was JM, and he was melanated. Anyway, for years he was a tyrant. To the point where I remember talking to people back shoreside. We didn't know how the hell he made captain. And I remember telling them, like, it's y'all fault he out here. Like, how the hell did he make captain? Who does he know? What does he have on people? Like, he had been a third mate, I met him at a chief mate status, and then he was a captain. And he had been accused of, I have to say allegedly, but I know he did it to a friend of mine, of sexual assault. And nothing happened to him as a third mate when he did it the first time. I met mates that he was having a relationship with. That girl went out, and I remember me and my friend, I swear to God, we just talked about this other day. We saw her out, and she was enjoying the company of someone not him. Okay? And I looked at my friend, I said, he gonna choke her out. He gonna choke the shit out of her when he see her, because he's that type of volatile. And you know what happened? He choked her out. And you know what else happened? She left. She didn't report it. Most women don't when things like that happen. She didn't report it because it just would have brought too much attention. And having attention, that's not what you think it's going to be. I'll tell you that. Because when the brown girls report stuff that's accurate, even with credible proof, we get demonized. Our promotions are held away from us. They put my friend on a last chance agreement, and she was a victim. Meaning a last chance agreement is when the command decides, hey, you can't do anything for the next X amount of days or years. And if you do, you're automatically terminated. No questions asked. That's what they did to her. And she was the victim. What proof? There's nobody there to stand in the gap sometimes for you. My point is this. The guy was a black guy, and he did all this shit to the black girls and to that white girl, and he got away with it for years. Got promoted several times over. He would only approach certain people a certain way, though. Keep that in mind. So if you're well-spoken, usually they're not going to touch you too much, but there are some psychopaths that still will go for it. Trust me. I know. But it wasn't until, and this was recently, like maybe 2022, because I sailed with him again. I have to sail with him 3 times. I sailed with him again in 2021. But again, he doesn't approach me the same way he approached them because he knows that I'm not one of those quiet types. So, um, somehow, some way, enough EEO. He's so arrogant. He would tell you, if you want to pull an EEO on him, he'll help you write it. You can do an EEO, I'll help you write it. They ain't gonna do nothing. And for a long time, they didn't. He was right. Well, there's a new regime here, and I would love to say that they're way different. I don't know specifically, but I can say that things have, the ball has kind of changed a little or a lot. My point is this: it was a group full of Filipino women. All they did, outside of reporting him, there were some people that came to the ship to investigate. Duh. They do that all the time. And generally speaking, after investigations, it was my experience that in the past, nothing happened. He was still free to roam about and do crazy stuff. Well, this time it was different. Because once you have made it to a certain status quo, it's harder to get fired or terminated because it's a government protected job, right? So what they did was they bumped, because the girls were crying and saying he did this, and he did that to me, which is the same shit he's been doing for years and getting away with. And all the brown girls said something, nothing really it didn't matter. But these women said the same thing, if not, it couldn't have been any worse than what he did back then, but same thing at par. They didn't fire him because they couldn't. They bumped him down from a captain to a third mate, which for the officer status is kind of like entry level officer stuff, significant pay drop, and more than the pay drop, it was definitely an ego bruise. And to someone that's an egotistical maniac / sociopath / a whole lot of other shit, that was too much for him to deal with. So they bumped him down to a third mate. Far be it for JM to be a third mate. So I think he quit. Or either they let him retire. Either way, he's not here anymore. That's how psychopaths get fired in MSC. So if you can deal with that, then there you go. But can I just explain to you how many people have had to seek out counseling or take extended vacations away from the job because they need to decompress? This place is it's not fun, because it can be. Every crew is different. Every mission is different. But for those of us who've been in for a long time, shit ain't always roses. It's not. And it's not always fun. And it can be very dangerous. Very. And you are not, to think that you're going to be the exact same person coming in, leaving as coming in, you're delusional. You're not. There's going to be so many changes. But anyway, I have talked longer than I wanted to because, I don't know. That's how I do it. I swear to God, I try to be short. But if you are interested in this content and you think that it is worth your time, your like, your share, and your subscribe, please do so. I am thankful for each and every one of you. We're almost at 300 people. I remember when I had 1 follower, so I am so thankful and grateful. Thank you all for being here, and I will see you next video. Anyway, hopefully you enjoy what I'm doing. Bye.